Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about Nintendo and the Pokemon Company's joint lawsuit against the developers of Palworld. So, Palworld obviously came out early this year, 2024, and it just became like this immediate overnight hit, right? I mean, they sold like 8 million units in the first 6 days of the game being available on Steam. It was so popular that the game became, I think, the second most concurrently played Steam game of all time. It was just a smash hit. I mean, it was everywhere, man. I mean, I played it for gameplay. Everybody was just talking about it. It was awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It was really cool to see an indie game like this kind of pop up out of nowhere and reach this level of success so quickly. But apparently, Nintendo and the Pokemon Company have been keeping quite a watchful eye on this game and the developers. And as of yesterday, they have officially filed a lawsuit in Japan against the developers of Palworld for patent violations. So Pocket Pair is the company that owns and developed Palworld, so they're the ones who basically got hit by this all. They have officially responded. We'll take a look at that a little bit later in this video, but Pocket Pair has responded to the lawsuit filed against it by Nintendo and the Pokemon Company. The studio that developed Palworld, the game at the heart of the lawsuit, issued a statement early this morning saying it doesn't know what patents it violated. Quote, "At this moment, we are unaware of the specific patents we're accused of infringing upon, and we've not been notified of such details," the statement read. According to Nintendo's press release, the reason for the lawsuit has to do with Pocket Pair allegedly infringing on multiple as yet undisclosed patents. The details of the lawsuit have not yet been made public, so we do not know yet which patents, and according to Pocket Pair's statement, it doesn't know either. The news broke last night that Nintendo and TPC, or the Pokemon Company, were suing the makers of Palworld, an open-world survival crafting game that features a collection of companion monsters players can catch and battle. Since its release in January, the game became an instant hit, racking up over 10 million in copies sold and breaking Steam's concurrent player records within the first few weeks. Almost immediately, people noticed striking similarities between Palworld's pals and Pokemon, from their looks down to their extraordinarily similar character models. So, before we go any further, I just want to clear this up because I think there's already a lot of misconception about this story. As it appears, it does not seem that Nintendo or the Pokemon Company are suing Palworld based on, like, character designs, right? When they mention things like patents, usually this refers to, like, patented technology or source code or something like that. So when it comes to like the art design or the character designs and whatnot, usually that's more of a copyright issue instead of a patent issue. So apparently somewhere along the line, Nintendo and Pokemon seem to believe that this game has, I don't know, stolen mechanics maybe from a Pokemon game or something like that, right? It's a lot more about the technicalities of how the game works and functions rather than the way that they drew up the characters here. So obviously, ever since the game came out, people have been comparing it to Pokemon. They even call it like Pokemon with guns. People have been drawing similarities between actual Pokemon designs and the designs of some of the pals in Palworld, but it really doesn't seem that that is the commotion here. So I don't really know. Apparently, the developers themselves don't really know basically like what's going on here, like what Nintendo is actually upset about. So obviously, Nintendo is a super lawsuit heavy company. Basically, anytime anyone has fun with any of their products, they will come along and try and slap a lawsuit on the whole thing. Realistically, it's one of my least favorite qualities about Nintendo. You know, they make good products and they make good games and they have awesome IP, but like in the instance of Pokemon, I think a reason why Palworld was so popular is because the recent Pokemon games haven't really scratched the itch for a lot of us Pokemon fans. Don't get me wrong, I love Pokemon, I always have. But the most recent games don't hold a candle to the older games. I mean, they've definitely not, I feel like, evolved with the times. And I feel like that they are putting out worse games than they should be putting out in all reality. Now, I know that that statement is going to trigger some of the Nintendo fans and some of the Pokemon fans. I expected that making this video, but that's just the way that a pretty good portion of the fan base is looking at things right now, right? So when a game like Palworld came along, people were just fucking ecstatic to see it because, yeah, sure, does it have similarities similarities to Pokemon? Undoubtedly, right? Undoubtedly, there's some similarities. But would I call it an outright copycat or ripoff? No, I wouldn't, because, for instance, the open world nature of Palworld is different than the open world nature of Pokemon. The combat systems are radically different in both games. For instance, Pokemon is a turn-based game, while Palworld is not. You know, Palworld, you can basically fucking enslave the pals and make them, like, work for you. There's base building, you can fucking give them guns, you know. The islands are different. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of differences in the games, you know. It's not like it's some one-to-one copy, but like I said, since they seem to think there's some sort of patent being infringed upon, I don't know if that means that, like, but one thing I always find funny is, like, you know, people are always, like, shitting on Palworld for this, but, like, Palworld is also heavily inspired from Ark Survival Evolved. And most people have never really given a shit about Ark and, like, its issues or whatever compared to Pokemon, but now everybody cares because I guess the characters look a little bit more like Pokemon in this game. I mean, Pokemon, ultimately, they don't own a monopoly on monster-catching video games. They don't own a monopoly on that. That would be like saying Call of Duty owns a monopoly on the first-person shooter, or that Grand Theft Auto or Rockstar Games owns a monopoly on the open-world game, right? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And not only does it not make sense, but legally, that's just not the case. You can't just claim ownership of, like, an entire style of game. So I think there's a lot of different scenarios that this could turn out to be. I don't know if Nintendo's filing this just to see if they can get the win, or if even, like, worse off, maybe Palworld did steal source code. I don't know how they would have done that, but honestly, that seems like one of the big speculations people have, is that maybe they took code from Pokemon. Now, I will say, if it turns out through all this that the people who made Palworld, the Pocket Pair company, if it turns out that they did, like, steal Pokemon source code or, like, stole assets or something, which it doesn't appear that they stole assets, but, you know, if it comes out that they actually did steal, like, openly, I can understand this a whole lot more. But as of right now, you know, the very popular consensus and also the immediate reaction that I had to this whole thing, it just feels like Pokemon is extremely jealous of the amount of support that Palworld got. It feels like they saw another game that was kind of similar but did things differently, that just got all of this love from the fans, and it sold millions of copies, and it was this huge thing, right? And I feel like they just got kind of mad about that because they feel like it's infringing on their territory, or it's like, you know, too much like Pokemon or whatever. Now, realistically, the judgment of this whole situation will become a lot more easy to kind of figure out when we find out specifically what Nintendo and Pokemon are suing for. Like, if it once again comes out, they're like, yeah, they stole code from this game and they stole code from this or whatever, that makes a lot more sense. But right now, obviously, we don't know that information, so we're basically just kind of going off of what the intentions of everything seem like here. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it's a legal dispute, so I'm sure Nintendo can't just, like, run out and tell the whole world what they find an issue with in the game, and that's why they're suing for. But over time, as this lawsuit evolves, I think we're finally going to figure out, like, what specifically does Nintendo think got taken here? What does Pokemon think got taken here that they think they have legal grounds to sue on? Because copyright law and IP law and stuff like that in Japan is totally different than how it is here in the US. And that's why it's kind of hard for me to, like, come to a full-on conclusion, like, oh, Palworld's in the right, Palworld's in the wrong. I believe that Palworld is probably in the right, and that I think they'll probably win this lawsuit, but I mean, we just don't know the precise details that would really help figure that out. Now, honestly, I really hope that they didn't steal anything from Pokemon. Like, I really hope they didn't steal code or any sort of, like, technical thing that they own, because I liked Palworld. Like I said, I think it's a pretty cool game. I think the concept of it was pretty cool, right? And it would suck to see a game that came out and, like, kind of shocked the industry in a way with its success. It would suck to see that get kind of erased by this lawsuit and to have its legacy tainted like that, right? And I think that, truthfully, a lot of the reason why the public reaction to Nintendo and them filing this lawsuit is so negative is because Nintendo has such a long history of just targeting anything and everything fan-related or anything when it comes to their content. I mean, they'll strike down Call of Duty Zombies mods that have Pokemon in it. They'll strike down YouTube videos that they think infringes on their copyright because of having Pokemon in it. They used to, like, heckle and harass people for using YouTube gameplay of really any Nintendo game, and they tried to, like, take people's revenue and shit for doing it. They've basically tried to sue and erase damn near any emulator or website that does any sort of thing coming to emulation of Nintendo's products. They just kind of go after anyone and everyone. They just fucking love swinging the lawsuits around, and it does a lot of harm to their public reputation. Like I said, I grew up on Nintendo games, man. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker is one of my favorite video games of all time. The Nintendo GameCube is one of the greatest gaming consoles, bar none. The DS was revolutionary, right? Like, I've loved Nintendo products for pretty much over 20 years at this point, right? But I mean, it comes to a point where as a company, they do so much damage to their own reputation with shit like this, and they really just leave way too much room for interpretation with moves like this. Now, though Nintendo's not going after Pocket Pair because Lambles look uncomfortably similar to Wooloo's, we do know the company is famously litigious in protecting the brand. Shortly after Palworld's release, TPC ordered a programmer to take down a video that featured a mod of Palworld that replaced all the pals with Pokemon. It also issued a statement saying it was aware of Palworld, although the statement did not refer to the game by name, and would be investigating the game to, quote, take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to Pokemon. Looks like the company found something. So, like I said, I mean, they must have found something, obviously, like the article says, that makes them think that their IP was kind of like, you know, trampled on or whatever, but we're gonna have to pretty much wait and see what exactly it is. Now, I really genuinely hope for Nintendo and Pokemon's concerns here. I really hope that it's overblown, and like I said, you know, Palworld's not going to get smacked here. That would be a really disappointing outcome, I think, for all. But I mean, once again, it's hard to just kind of immediately believe Nintendo is in the right here simply because of how they've acted so many times before. And they kind of have, like this says, you know, they're famously litigious in protecting their brand, and as a result, they've kind of built this reputation of like, oh, Nintendo hates fun if they're not profiting. Nintendo, you know, they're just always going to swing that hammer around of suing. It just really sucks. It's a shitty situation. Palworld, they say that they're pretty much not really sure, obviously, what particularly is supposedly infringed upon here. They did issue a hot fix late last night to the game, and it appears that they're going to continue working on it through the entire thing. They are responding to the lawsuit. Obviously, they're going to face the litigation. They're going to try to win this lawsuit. Like I said, we'll see who wins ultimately down the road, but I just wanted to talk about it because, I mean, I talked about all this early on this year, and we were at that point kind of wondering like, oh, is Nintendo going to step in and sue? You know, they're aware of what's going on, but are they going to do anything about it? And then now, all this time later, they are doing something about it. Now, clearly a lot of people are really wondering why they waited until all the hype surrounding the game died down to do this. I would assume that since, you know, this is going to end up being such a major lawsuit and all these millions of dollars will have to be spent on it, they probably really combed through everything they could to really try and dig up as much evidence as they could. These things take time. I know Nintendo. I'm sure that they, you know, spent these months very wisely with their legal team figuring out what to do next. So like the article says, it looks like they found something, man. I mean, I would really hope and assume that they're not just throwing this out there for the sake of throwing it out there. I think there's just too much damage to be done to the brand for that to be the case, but we'll just have to wait and see what comes of this. Anyway, with that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at SubToOptimus. I almost said lawsuit, I don't know why. At SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus talking about the Nintendo Palworld lawsuit and signing out. And that's a wrap on this video, but big shout out to my Optimus Nation supporters. You guys are the real MVPs. For $10 a month, you get access to loads of exclusive videos and archived live streams, my members only Minecraft server where you can possibly appear in gameplay, early access to all new uploads, an invitation to the private Discord, and much more.